What's up, guys? So today I want to talk about Marcio Andre's knee cut system. So personally, this is one of my favorite passing systems to follow, and I've been lucky enough to train a lot with Marcio over the years, so I've gotten to feel this firsthand, and let me just say, this man hands out life-changing beatings. I'm talking the kind of beatings that'll make you want to quit Jiu Jitsu and start a YouTube channel. Now, Marcio's coming off an amazing run at Pan Ams. To me, it's a performance that really highlights some of the evolution we've seen in Jiu Jitsu. You know, some of those steps we're taking are hard to see sometimes, but when was the last time you saw two featherweights battling for takedowns in the finals of the Pan Ams? And it's not just the takedowns themselves that are so impressive, it's how these guys are connecting judo, jiu-jitsu, and wrestling. We're starting to see guys use De La Hiva to get to single legs more. We're seeing guys pull directly to the sweep they want to do without changing grips. I think these are areas where we're going to start to see huge improvements in jiu-jitsu over the next couple years. Now, for the people who maybe don't know Marcio, let me take you back to a match from 2016 where he passed Cobrinha's guard. Let me just say that again. He passed Cobrinha's guard. Watch.
Aggressive step over to the far side, and he's going to control the bottom leg. If he can get this hand to the hip, Cobrinha's going to have to take a risk to get out, trying to get his guard back, but I think this is a pass.
Secure the side. He just passed Cobrinha's guard. That's incredible.
Now, if you don't know Cobrinha, that is incredible. To me, that's one of the best guards of the previous generation, and to see Marcio consistently pass these guards that sometimes we've never seen passed before really says a lot about the levels we're talking about. Now, I want to focus on the knee cut today, and where I usually like to start is body positioning. How are we going to position our body to prevent our opponent from doing the move that they want to do? Notice the position he falls into right off the guard pull. The first thing to note is where his weight's at. So he's leading with his front knee and he's putting his front knee on his opponent's stomach, but most of his weight is on his left hand and his left knee. The reason this is important is if you give your opponent too much control of your weight, they're going to be able to elevate you and move you a little easier. So right now, Marcio's in control of his own weight. The other thing is the positioning of his lead leg. So notice how he's doing like a leg curl with his foot and he's keeping his knee on his opponent's stomach. This is preventing closed guard, but it's also allowing him to get inside the hips when he goes to set up his knee cut. Again, pay attention to that lead knee. It's an important detail just to get into the system that we're talking about today. So I want you guys to think of a pocket on each side of their hips. Now I'm using his knee as a reference point. So there's the same side pocket where his right hand's at right now. And then there's the cross pocket where his right knee's at right now. Now maintaining control of both of these pockets is super important as you finish the pass, but it should go in order of same side pocket, then cross pocket. Right off the pull, he brings his knee into the same side pocket. Then he guides his knee over his opponent's stomach to the cross pocket and then replaces that knee with his right hand. There's a point of the pass where you have to use the hand that you have wedged into their left hip as an underhook. And when you do that, it's important that you maintain that space between their hips that you made. The way I like to deal with this is by internally rotating my right hip. And then when I go to move my underhook up, I'm going to fill the space that I just made by leaning my right hip in. Now, I just want to show one quick example of what happens when you don't control that same side hip. So notice how this time he goes directly to that cross pocket and he allows his opponent to bring their left knee into his hip. The reason why this is a problem is because it creates space between the two of your hips. So when you go to slide out on your knee cut, there's going to be this gap of space that the person on bottom can use to recover their guard. Pay attention to how that knee allows Tama to belly down here and then sit back to his guard. I think against high-level guys, it's normal for that knee to make it in there. So I just want to show one way that Marcio gets it back out of his way. So it's the same position here, and that reason the knee is in the hip is because his opponent's on their right side. So what Marcio does is he brings his right hand up and grabs the lapel. He's going to use that to press down on the shoulders and try to flatten them out. At the same time he's doing that, he's going to side shuffle with his legs until his opponent's guard is centered. This allows him to wedge his right hand back into that same side hip pocket and try the knee cut again while keeping that knee out of his way. Now here Marcio passes without the underhook, and I don't really recommend this if you're just now learning the knee cut pass. If you know it really well and you have ways to keep your opponent flat, like how he's using his head under his opponent's chin, you can get away with it, but you're really close to getting your back taken if your opponent has an underhook on you. Earlier I mentioned this position where he places his knee on the stomach and then does a leg curl to keep his foot off the ground. So this position accounts for a lot. Number one, it's avoiding De La Hiva and reverse De La Hiva because there's no space between your calf and thigh for the opponent to put their hook in. The other thing is to avoid quarter guard late in the pass. So as you're knee cutting through, if your butt comes off your heel, there's space for your opponent to grab onto your right foot and put you in quarter guard. Now, it's not often Marcio messes this up, but I did find one clip of him chain passing and then allowing his opponent to grab onto that foot. You can see it's not the end of the world. You can still pry your foot out, you can still finish the pass, but it's just adding one more thing onto that stack of things we have to accomplish in jiu-jitsu, and oftentimes that's just too many. If you're finding yourself here on bottom a lot, you should ask yourself what you're doing with your quarter guard. Are you using it to recover, or are you just buying yourself time? If you feel like the person's going to pass either way and you're just buying yourself time, just let it go. Let them pass, save the energy, and use that energy to recover and try to escape. And this is the cycle that I see Marcio sap the will of a lot of his opponents, where he knee cuts out, they try to recover, but all they're really getting is a quarter guard. They're never getting a half guard or a full guard, so it costs a lot of energy every time they recover, and it's really easy for Marcio to pry his leg back out because all they're holding on to is his foot. I'd say it's more about the upper body. If your upper body's free, you can still do stuff with your quarter guard. If not, that quarter guard's pretty much a lifeline. This leads us into the long step. Now, I think this pass deserves its own video, so I don't want to talk too much about it. I just want to show how Marcio uses this pass in combination with the knee cut. I look at this like a misdirection, so you're cutting through with your knee and then you're taking it the opposite way and backstepping out. So the people I know that are the best at the long step are able to get totally flat when they backstep out, but it's important to land your left ear on their chest, and you can't see it from here, but his left hand is grabbing the lapel and pulling his left shoulder into their face so that they can't turn into him. Look at this like you're undoing their guard and creating a scramble. So you can continue with the long step pass around the same side of the guard, or you can try to hop over and pass to the opposite side. What we see Marcio do is just use it to re-enter the knee cut pass. One last thing I want to mention here is the way his opponent's dealing with the knee cut, because I see this all the time. It feels like you can just sit up and grab a single leg on that knee that's cutting through your guard, but what's going to happen is Marcio's going to use that lead knee to pin you down so you can't sit up, and then he's going to use the space from you hugging around his leg to get an underhook on you, and then he's going to go right back to the knee cut. It's tricky because new people always get told how valuable the grips are, that you should always hold your grips and never let them go, but in this case it's kind of a hindrance. It's allowing Marcio to get his underhook, and then he's just going to use the knee cut to break those grips anyway. It's another good example of how that quarter guard can buy you some time, but it's not really doing a whole lot to get you out of this bad position. You really need to focus on the upper body and undo those things before the quarter guard's going to be any use to you. The last thing I want to talk about is switching sides on the knee cut. Earlier I mentioned that with the knee cut pass, you need a way to keep your opponent flat. So most people use an underhook on the opposite side that they're passing to, and what that means for the person on bottom is they'll usually defend that underhook so that you can't get the necessary control you need to pass. Now, while the person's busy defending the underhook on Marcio's right side, he's going to get a crossface and underhook on the left side, the side that he's normally knee cutting out to. Now, once he has that control, he's going to use the knee that's already in the guard to make space so he can feed his other knee into the guard. Once he gets the other knee in, he can step his right knee off to the right side. Now you end up in the same position we've been talking about, only on the opposite side, so you can apply everything we went over in this video to passing to the right now. Something to keep in mind with passing both ways is most people have a strong side and weak side to their guard, so if you can find people's weak side, it's going to open up a lot of possibilities with your passing. To be clear, this is going to take a lot of drilling on your weak side. It's going to take the uncomfortable drilling that you don't want to do on the awkward side that's not as fun to drill, but once you have it down and you can pass both ways, it opens up this freedom of movement that I never thought was possible in Jiu Jitsu. If you're still watching, thank you so much. I appreciate the support. The channel's growing really fast. Last week I was hyped about 1,000 subs and now we're well over 2,000. So it seems like the ceiling's really high for this and I'm excited to see where it goes. If you want to support the channel, like the video and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week.